All right, so let's get started. So welcome to the session. You guys can hear me in the back, right? Yes? No? Yes? Good. All right. Well, I'll probably have to shout a bit more over the other guy. All right. So session is providing BCDR, business continuity, disaster recovery to Oracle workloads on hybrid cloud, right? So I'm going to start with a bit of SRM, a bit of Site Recovery Manager, DRS, right? There are much better sessions here. I'm not the expert on SRM, vSphere replication, but yes, when it comes to marrying those technology with Oracle workloads, and you could probably take the word Oracle out and probably put SQL Server or any other application that you have running in the shop here today, right? So I'm just going to use Oracle as a use case here. But yes, if you really want to talk about SRM, vSphere replication, come visit us at the booth. There's a guy called Kato Grace. There's Jason Massey. We have a lot of rich sessions here. But essentially, from a DR perspective, right? When you start looking at what products VMware has as an offering to provide disaster recovery, you have VCDR, which you guys already know. That's our service to the cloud. You have VSR, which is nothing but SRM with vSphere replication. You guys, as VMware admins, have been using SRM vSphere replication, so I'm not going to waste your time talking about it as well. This is what SRM does. Essentially, everybody knows that SRM is just a orchestrator. It doesn't do your replication, right? It's the vSphere replication that does the actual replication, whether it's on a VMware vSphere basis or whether it has to talk to the array to do an array-based replication or even vVol. So SRM is a workflow. And at some point in time, I'll even show you how you can marry SRM with DataGuard, right? Some of you guys in the back will be thinking, you know what, that's not possible because DataGuard does replication at an Oracle level, SRM is at the vSphere level, and never the twain can meet. So what the hell is he talking about? But I will give you a bit of insight into that as well, right? Of course, we now have SRM for hyperscalers, GCVE, Oracle Cloud, Azure. So, the better together story up here. Array-based replication, SRM does that as well. Just makes a call to SRA, and SRA does your replication. Whether that's your time finder, that's your Hitachi or Pure or whatsoever, right? SRM just does the handoff, and that's it. vSphere replication, I'm going to move over these slides. vVols. How many guys are actually using vVols? Or at least heard of vVols? Or thinking of using vVols, right? Please do. Please do. It'll make your life so easy. And if you really want to have a great debate about it, all you have to do is just buy me scotch. And trust me, I'll tell you how it makes life easy for Oracle DBAs or SQL guys or MongoDBs or whatever application you have running. But in a nutshell, right, the best thing that vVol brings to the table is it's a bridge between your RDM and VMDKs, right? We always used to have this RDM versus VMDK fight, correct? The holy war, right? That's what vVol does. It's nothing but a well-orchestrated system of RDMs. You have Pure Storage, you have many other storage vendors talking about vVols, and I just finished a booth theater session. But if you guys want to talk about that, please come talk to me. I'm at the VMware booth. But coming to the topic for today, BCDR, right? See, what happens is, and this is not specific to Oracle, right? Any database at some point of time is going to grow unless you tell me that my database is static and will not change for the next 25,000 years. That's not going to happen, right? Your databases will grow with leaps and bounds. Your rate of change will increase. You will throw a lot of archive log files. So what happens? The backup that worked probably a year and a half ago may not work now, right? Your business continuity will not be able to keep up. So there are challenges with that. So essentially what happens is at some point of time, when you, for example, use the Oracle RMAN or the Recovery Manager, right? It will break at some point of time based on the change rate. Then what happens is we start talking about storage-based replication, correct? But then some customers are like, yes, storage-based replication is great, but I do want to have that granularity of just replicating certain volumes on that particular LUN over from site A to site B. I don't want the entire LUN to go over, right? So that's where vVol comes and helps you, right? So the key ask of today is choosing the right technology for BC and DR and choosing the appropriate technology from a VMware perspective, right? So any approach you take, any approach you take, whether that's business continuity or whether that's disaster recovery, happens at 3 different levels. The application level, the VMware vSphere level, and the storage level, right? When we start looking from a business continuity perspective, right? I just threw this slide up and I know people at the back probably can't read, right? You may have to get glasses like me, right? But what happens is when you start looking at the Oracle level, you have your Oracle RMAN, right? Your export, import, your data pump, right? Your backup and so on and so forth. So that doesn't go away when you deploy your Oracle workloads on VMware platform, right? You can still use that. But then now you have other options as well. You could use VMware Snapshots. You could use clones. The first question that any Oracle guy would ask me is, that's great, that's beautiful, right? But snapshots and clone, Do they guarantee right order fidelity? That's important, right? Will the blocks arrive in the right order of time? The answer is yes, a resounding yes. It is a resounding yes. 8i, and I don't know how many people are aware of it, at some point of time, storage vendors, they went back to Oracle and said, you know what, it's great. I don't want to put a database in a hot backup mode, right? You know why? There's a lot of redo activity that happens. There's a lot of overhead that happens. Can you give me crash consistent? And that's when the storage guys came back and said, sure, as long as you do or ensure 3 different things, right? Make sure that you take a snapshot, you ensure right order fidelity, and absolutely, the Oracle database will come up with the charm, right? So when you go back home and take a snapshot of a LUN that has, let's say, an Oracle database running on it, and you, let's say, rescan it, and you, let's say, resignature it and assign it to another ESXi server, you bring it up. When you bring the database up, it does what's known as a crash recovery. It plays all the redo logs, and then it rolls back all the uncommitted transactions. That's what Oracle has been doing since Oracle 7 days. It's been doing since Oracle 7 days. So right now we are at what, 23C? That's what Oracle version is. So Oracle has come a way along, right? So you have that option as well. The third option essentially is the storage base, where you can either use LUNs, which means take a snapshot of the LUN, take a clone of the LUN, yes, you get that, or take a snapshot of the vVol, take a clone of the vVol, you get it. So you have the Oracle way of doing it, right? You have the VMware vSphere way of doing it, snapshot and clones. And third, you have the storage array or the virtual volume way of doing it. So you have different ways of doing it, right? So if we start looking at Oracle crash consistent backup, right? Because I don't have the ability or the flexibility to put my databases on a begin backup mode, then have the application developers or the business guys scream at me saying, man, this database is going so slow. You guys are doing your hard backup in the middle of the day, right? So there's a lot of overhead. So I would like to do a crash consistent backup. Can I do that? Absolutely. Again, as long, and that's the note in the bottom of the slide, if you guys can look at it or read it. That's the note from Oracle that basically says, as long as right order fidelity is guaranteed, absolutely, works like a charm. So you have a database sitting in a virtual machine, take a snapshot. If you have to revert it back, it works like a charm. You guys have been doing it day in and day out of your life, right? And if you were to look at the alert log, see, every database has an alert log file, just like every virtual machine has a VMware log file, correct? Any activity that happens on a virtual machine, when you act as SCSI controller, when you remove a VMDK, you add a VMDK, you add a NIC on the fly, there's an entry that gets added to the VMware log file. Similarly, anything that happens, good, bad, or ugly, to an Oracle database gets logged onto the alert log file. So if you take a crash consistent backup of an Oracle database, it basically says this, and you bring it up on another virtual machine, it does what I just said a couple of seconds ago. It does crash recovery. So there is nothing that says, well, these blocks are corrupted and you may have to go back and do a full restore. No, we don't see that, right? So that's from a VM snapshot perspective. Now, I wish to take a clone of a virtual machine because the developer here basically said, can you give me a copy of the production database? Because I need to test my software, right? I have a new software coming. I need to do my QA testing on that. I have a release or I have certain bugs to do that, right? How do I do it? I just take a VMware clone, which essentially you guys have been doing day in and day out of your life, right? Again, there are ways you can do it. You can take a power CLI script to do it, or you can take an instant clone. And it's not the instant clone from a VMware perspective. You just clone a virtual machine, right? What it does, it takes an intrinsic snapshot, right? It's an internal snapshot, and from there, it takes a clone of the virtual machine. You guys already know that, right? But from an Oracle perspective, works like a charm, right? When you bring the clone up, it does the same thing, your crash recovery as well. If, let's say, I go one level down. So remember, I spoke about the 3 levels, right? The Oracle level, the VMware level, and now we are at the storage level where I can take a storage-based snapshot, right? So essentially, all I'm doing is I'm parking my virtual machines on a LUN. Could be from any storage provider, right? Let's assume it's a VMFS block store, correct? And all I do is I take a storage-based snapshot. I then create a clone of the snapshot. I attach that LUN to an ESXi server. I got to re-signature it, right? Because it has the same UUID or the SCSI ID. I do that, I scan it, data store number 2 or data store underscore clone comes up, your virtual machine comes up, and guess what? Oracle does the magic for you, right? It does that crash recovery. So again and again, you will hear the same theme from me in pretty much every second of the slide saying, Oracle does the magic, Oracle does the crash recovery. You don't have to do anything different. Crash consistent works like a charm. But again, that doesn't mean you go back home and say, okay, that's it, we're done. No more hot backups. Everybody, let's move to crash consistent. Nope. There are certain use cases, right? There are certain use cases where you use crash consistent. There are certain use cases you use RMAN. Some people, they use hot backup and recovery. So you have to evaluate that and see what actually fits the bill, right? Again, if I have to, let's say, clone it, all I do is I take a LUN-based snapshot. Once I take a LUN-based snapshot up here, right, I can do that. The best part with that is when we do the storage-based replication, when we do the storage-based cloning, that's what you would do, right? Remember I spoke about the vVol, the virtual volume, right, a couple of seconds ago. That's what a vVol is. I'll give you an example, right? Let's assume you have a virtual machine, correct? I'll make it very simple. You have a virtual machine, you have two VMDKs, right? Sake of simplicity. And let's assume the very first VMDK, you have the operating system, you have the Oracle binaries, right? And then on the second VMDK, you have a database, right? My ask to you guys, I don't want to take a virtual machine clone. I don't want to take a VM snapshot. No, I don't want to do that. Just give me a snapshot of that second VMDK, attach it to another server, okay? Just do that. I don't want to use VMKFS tools. I don't want to use parse CLI. How to do it? You probably cannot, right? You probably have to think about, okay, can I script it? Can I use VMKFS tools, parse CLI, so on and so forth? Every storage vendor, major storage vendor, who basically allows vVols in their storage array, gives you some kind of plugin. Pure does that, Dell does that, Hitachi does that, right? By using that plugin, that level of granularity, the granularity of operation is at a VMDK level, which means I can go to the VMDK point and say snapshot. Boom, I get a snapshot. Then I'll say clone from the snapshot. Great, I get another vVol. Attach that vVol to another virtual machine. Hurrah, I'm done, right? See how easy is it as compared to writing parse CLI, VMKFS tools, talking to your Oracle DB and saying, oh, can you just clone it using the Oracle way of doing it? Your life becomes simple, trust me. Your life from a day two perspective becomes simple. Again, this is not the Oracle of the world. No, this is not the Oracle. Your SQL servers, your MongoDB, your Java, any business critical application can make use of virtual volumes, right? So backup, restore, patching, cloning, refreshing, testing, cloning of an Oracle rack, everything becomes so easy. So what happens right now is now you're able to focus on something better and something newer than these two day two operations, right? So case in point being, vVol really helps you save the day, right? DR, we spoke about business continuity. I spoke about the three different levels, the Oracle level, the VMware level, the storage level, right? Let's move to the DR aspect of the conversation here, right? So from a DR perspective, when you start looking at Oracle databases, you have a plethora of options, right? You have the data guard, you have the golden gate, right? You have the logical standby, which essentially is the data guard, right? You have the physical standby, so on and so forth. Yes, everything comes with a price tag, but that has pros and cons as well, right? It basically makes sure that you're able to avoid any kind of corruption if you think you have any kind of corruption on your primary, right? Again, this is not an Oracle 101. More than happy to discuss that, but those are the tools you have available on the Oracle side, right? Now, from a VMware vSphere perspective, you guys are VMware admins, right? I'm like preaching to the choir here. You know what SRM is, you know what vSphere replication is. If you go to the cloud, now you have a choice. You have VCDR, you have VSR, so on and so forth. If you want to go from DC1 to DC2, primary side to a secondary side, you could either do SRM with vSphere replication, you could do SRM with storage-based replication, you could also do SRM with vVol-based replication. Again, remember, a LUN at the end of the day is just a LUN. A vVol at the end of the day is just a LUN. Again, I'll say a vVol is nothing but an RDM. A vVol is a well-orchestrated system of RDM. If you think an RDM has a SCSI ID of 256, a virtual volume will have a SCSI ID of, let's say, 1: something, where that 1 is the protocol endpoint, and the second part of the colon is the vVol. Now, what is it that I'm solving here when I start using vVol? The SCSI limit, right? 1024 is where it ends, correct? So what happens when you go beyond 1024? Off you go and buy another vSphere cluster, correct? With vVols, you have 4,000 vVols per ESXi server. SCSI, NVMe is 1,000, which means you don't have to worry about the SCSI limit anymore, correct? And if you guys are wondering, oh, how about noisy neighbor elimination? I just told you, vVol is an RDM. What else do you want, right? Yes, you can have your cake and eat it too. It is both a VMDK and an RDM at the end of the day, correct? All right. So if I have to use, remember I spoke about how you could marry SRM and data guard, right? Data guard does the replication, SRM doesn't do anything. But SRM provides you that orchestration, which means there's got to be somebody there. So what happens is, unless you're using data guard broker, which is a process, there's got to be somebody there in the other end when disaster strikes, that they basically come back and said, okay, let me log on to the standby database. Let me change the mode from standby to primary, right? If it's one database, that's great. You could do it, right? What if it's 1,000? Will you do that 1,000 times? You'll probably script it, right? You'll have a script, you'll orchestrate that, and that orchestrated script can be put in SRM. So while you can put that as part of a coming up process of a virtual machine. So pick out control VM and say, when that control VM comes up, that control VM will run a script. And all the script does, it logs into all those 1,000 standby databases and runs the same SQL command again, right? Your job now becomes easy. So you could use the power of SRM, the orchestration power of SRM to do this. This is just an example I'm giving you. This doesn't mean you guys have to get away from your data guard. If you love your data guard, absolutely use it. I mean, I've been doing Oracle databases for 26 years. I love data guard as well, right? So it's like what shoe fits your feet is what you need to go with, right? So there are different use cases here. All right, so that's the script I was talking about. You could just embed anything you want into SRM. It does the work for you, right? And definitely these slides will be provided at the end of the session. You guys can use that. Or if you want to have a conversation, come talk to me, right? And let's suppose if I'm using vSphere replication, right? This is basically what I would do. My virtual machines, I'll add it to a protection plan. I'll call that a protected group, right? And if I just run this, and by the way, this was just a simulation, not an actual DR. What happens is, we saw that the DR was successful. The protected site gets powered off. The recovery site comes up, right? The alert log, which is the most important stuff, that shows no error. And again, like I'm going to keep repeating like a broken record, right order fidelity was guaranteed, right? Right order fidelity was guaranteed, which means I can use vSphere replication with SRM, right, to provide disaster recovery for your Oracle workloads. This is it. This is what I did. And then I just took a snippet of the alert log file and I basically put it on a white paper, right? I said, guys, go have a look at it for yourself, right? Okay, if I have to use storage-based DR, I could do that as well, correct? I could use SRM with SRA, and SRA does the replication for you between a pure and a pure, or EMC and an EMC, Hitachi, SDS, whatever, right? Whatever array you have. And that's exactly how it happens, same thing. It rescans, it comes up, your virtual machines are powered off. Yes, your right order of fidelity is preserved here as well, right? And if I have to do vVol, that's a difference. There's a bit of a difference here because your virtual center talks to your VASA. There is no SRA involved here, right? The virtual center will talk to VASA, and VASA here will talk to the VASA here and basically says, okay, which vVols do you want to replicate, right? And the replication then happens between the two pure arrays or the EMC arrays, right? It's not the SRA that does it for you. It's the VASA. You basically go, the control command goes to the VASA. The actual data flows through the array, right? And if I have to DR it to the cloud, I'm sure people are using VMware Cloud on AWS or even GCVE, Google Cloud VMware Engine, OCVS, Azure, right? SRM vSphere replication works as a charm. So if you wish to then migrate or if you wish to DR your Oracle workloads to any cloud of your choice, and I'm not trying to sell you anything here, right? You could do that as well, right? It's the same concept. Again, right order fidelity is preserved. So I just took VMware Cloud on AWS as an example here to show you guys, right? Again, from a VCDR perspective, if you have to do that, whether it's Pilot Lite or whether you would like to have a 3-node, ESXi server standing there just in case something were to happen, it does that as well. Your blocks are then shipped from on-premise to that SCFS, right? That file system sitting up there, that is basically your VCDR repository. You could do that, and if you have to test it, so be it. You can do that as well. Again, remember, VCDR uses VMware Snapshots. Any technology that uses VMware Snapshots, the right order fidelity is guaranteed. I'll say this again. Anything that uses VMware Snapshots, the right order fidelity is guaranteed, which means vSphere replication, yes. How about VCDR? Yes. Does vSphere replication do snapshot? No, it uses lightweight Delta protocol, but that's right consistent as well. Right order fidelity is preserved, right? And if I have to bring it together, if I have to, let's say, quickly bring it together and say, can I put both the business continuity and disaster recovery on the same slide? This is pretty much what it is, right? So start reading from the middle section, right? I don't know why this thing is not working here, but if you start looking at the middle section, you have the business continuity from an Oracle perspective, right? Those are your RMAN, your hot backup, correct? Your export import, your data pump, create table as select, external tables, and knock yourself out, right? Write it to an Excel flat file for all I care. But those are tools that you have from an Oracle perspective. When you come one level down, you have your VMware snapshots, you have your VMware clones. We saw how VMware Snapshot preserves the Oracle right order fidelity when it takes a snapshot of a virtual machine with an Oracle database running. You don't have to shut your database down. When you go another level down, you have your storage-based snapshots, right? And you guys have been using storage-based snapshot for so many years. You can then clone a storage-based, you can then clone from a storage-based snapshot. So that business continuity vertical in the middle, that's well defined. Now, if I have to DR it to another on-prem site, that's the column to the left-hand side, where essentially You could use DataGuard, Golden Gate, or any tool of your choice. From an application level, you could use SRM with vSphere replication, or you could even use storage-based replication, correct? Now, when you go to the cloud, there is no storage-based replication, right? You basically either have to fall back on application-based replication or VMware vSphere replication. So if you go to VMC, that's your VSR. It's another name for SRM vSphere replication, just another name. It's the same old SRM vSphere replication that you guys have been using day in and day out of your life. That's all it is, right? And if I wish to DR, I got VCDR as well. And VCDR is, for now, on VMC. So you as a customer, you as a partner, right, you have that choice of thinking, you know what, these are the skill sets I have in my company. These are the people I have, right? These are the licenses I have. This is the knowledge base I have. For me, I think this is what I'm going to go with. Works like a charm, right? So the reason why I put this whole thing together is to just tell you, not one way is the right way. There are many ways you guys can do it, correct? And essentially, some questions sometimes we get back from customers. Well, I have an Oracle RAC database running on-prem, right? But unfortunately, you have this issue with the multi-writer flag. So if you guys are running Oracle RAC on-premises with VMDKs and multi-writer, right? The current restriction is you cannot take a snapshot. It's disallowed. VMware Engineering and we are all working with it, right? So I'm working with VMware Engineering to take care of it, right? And definitely, hopefully, don't record me, but hopefully by the end of the year, or maybe the start of next year, the first month, we should have some solution for that, right? But till that point of time, what you guys can do is have a local data guard in front of the Oracle rack, right? So let's say you have a 3-node Oracle rack running on premises, have a local data guard that provides you a local DR, and then use VMware vSphere replication or VCDR, just like you would for any other virtual machine, to move your stuff from on-prem to the cloud, right? So rack, local DR, just protect the local DR, go to the cloud, just wait for a couple of months. If not, come see me. If you guys want to take me outside and beat me up, that's fine, but I'll make sure I work with the engineering to fix it, okay? I'll do that for you guys. All right. Again, this is a bit on licensing. I know licensing is the word that nobody wants to talk about here, and I'm not going to talk about it unless you guys buy me scotch, which is different, but this is what it is, right? Feel free to come and talk to me later at the VMware booth, but typically what happens is we start talking about licensing from a BC perspective, business continuity. Well, how about Oracle licensing? Yes, you got to talk to the Oracle guys about it, right? But from a vSphere replication, or let's say from a VMware snapshot or a cloning perspective or a storage-based snapshot, do I have to pay any licensing extra for any of those technologies? Nope. How about from a disaster recovery perspective? VCDR? No. As long as the Oracle binaries are not installed, as long as they're not up and running, no, you don't have to pay anything. Only when it is up and running, we pay anything. But again, like I said, I don't want to get down to the Oracle licensing weeds. Please come talk to me, right? And we can probably beat that topic to death, right? At any point of time. But that's the licensing guidance from a VMware perspective, especially when you start running your Oracle workloads on AVS, GCVE, OCVS, right? Please talk to your hyperscalers and they'll be able to provide you more guidance. If it's VMC, we own it, VMware owns it. Please come talk to me, talk to my team. We'll be able to help you. But with that, if there's anything you guys want to take away, from this session, is that just one link. You can probably forget everything I've said today, but take a picture of that, because anything I produce, anything my team produces, Oracle on VMware, it's right up there, right? You can basically go back home and say, I don't care about the guy, but then come back a month later, go to the link, you're like, wow, let me look at this Oracle best practices. Wow, I see this rack link here. I see this vWall. I see these links, right? So everything gets packed up here. So please take a picture. Or if you guys have any questions after this, come talk to me, but that's me. But I'm going to leave it with this one here. And how am I doing for time? 1 more minute. All right. I think I've spoken very fast for you guys, right? Because I wanted to make sure I cover everything in 27 minutes or these guys are going to kick me out, right? So again, if you guys have any questions, please come up with your questions. If not, feel free. I will be there at the booth, right? We have SQL expertise, we have Oracle expertise, we have virtual volume expertise, we have the pure both in front of us or probably to the back of us. We have Dell EMC, we have other vendors as well for your choice, right? But anything you want to talk about Oracle on VMware, right? Feel free, talk to me, right? I'm at the booth, but I hope you guys found this useful, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wrap it up. All right. So let's talk about that outside. But thank you. All right. Thanks.